lunch break, so I want to respect your time today. So this will go no more than the top of the hour. So no more than 58 minutes. We'll cut it off at that point. I like to keep my presentation super interactive. So we will be doing some prizes, some giveaways. For those of you who are on, we'll be giving away copies of my book. Whoa, you can't see it. That's weird. Hey, there you go. There's my book. So Miss Bansi Popat, can you get on video so we can see your lovely face? There she is. Perfect. Super honored to have Bansi today. She is an insurance expert. She also runs a huge orthopedic office in Phoenix, Arizona, where her husband, Dr. Rishi Popat, is the orthodontist there. They have associates. It's a really amazing office. I've really had the pleasure to work with them closely over the past few years. We've co-hosted a few courses, especially straight wire courses. But Bansi is my go-to person as an orthodontist. I know a lot of things clinically, but one of my weak spots, honestly, is insurance and billing. And true honesty, when I was super busy practicing, I always outsourced it. So I know a lot of things. I know how to write up the insurance narratives, but in terms of a lot of the technical questions that a lot of you have, I'm not the right person. So she's the person I go to when I have a question. And cool fun fact, she does have her own consulting business. You can see and sign up to talk to her from my website, which is StraightSmileSolutions.com. If you want to do any follow-up meetings with her, it's available. She invites you to go ahead and make appointments, and she's really excited. Bansi, welcome to our webinar today.
Hi, Dr. Wilson. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm so excited to meet all of you.
Yeah, we're super excited. So just so you guys know, Bansi's originally from Ohio. She met her husband, Dr. Rishi Popat, at Harvard, where Bansi has her MBA from Harvard. She is probably one of the most overqualified office managers that's out there. So she's amazing. Their office runs like incredible. She knows so much about branding, about social media, about insurance. So she's a great person for you to get to know. And she also has two wonderful daughters. Bansi, I'm gonna let you go ahead and take it away if you want to add anything about what you do, how people can get a hold of you, and then we'll go ahead and start on the questions.
Yeah, sure. So we are, my husband is the orthodontist. I like to say that I am he can't find another volunteer from Harvard.
True.
So, have had to learn the ropes of the dental world fairly quickly. We are a startup office. We are 5 years in Phoenix, Arizona. My husband is the orthodontist, and we have a couple of associates that are pediatric dentists. So it's definitely been a learning curve. We've learned a lot, and I feel like we have gained a lot of knowledge in insurance and billing and how to smoothly run we are a heavy PPO practice. We are out of network with some insurances, but from the pediatric side, we're very heavy PPO. So we do a lot of insurance, and to get that to run smoothly is sometimes difficult, especially if you're onboarding orthodontics into your practice. There's a lot of nuances with orthodontic insurance payment and billing that are not there for, say, GP or pediatric dentistry. So we've learned a lot, and now we're excited to share our knowledge with all of you.
We are so excited to have you here. Incredible. And y'all can go ahead and ask questions in the chat. I'll be monitoring out the corner of my eye. But some of you have already submitted questions, so we're going to start off with those questions that you've asked, and I'll just pick up wherever we go. So if you feel comfortable, Bansi, can you tell us a little bit more about, like, in your office about, fees, how they work for like phase 1, how they work for aligners, how they work for braces? And, I know this is just one way of doing things, oral habits, stuff like that, but we'd love to hear about how you guys do it.
Yeah, so if you're an insurance heavy practice, your fees are usually dictated by whatever your contracted rate would be by procedure code. If you are not, you have the liberty to charge whatever you feel is fair. A lot of times I get questions from pediatric dentists and general dentists specifically about habit appliance in phase 1. Mm-hmm. In our office, we typically do habit and 4x4, so upper braces in the same treatment, and that we would present that as phase 1. If we were to do just habit, it's usually D221, I think, or D220 if it's fixed or removable. Those are typically not covered by insurance. you would have to call to check, but if they are, they generally take away their ortho benefits. So when you are ready for a phase one, all their benefits have been depleted. So it's usually very important to script back to the patient so that they're not upset when they come back and you say, well, you've used all your benefits now. So sometimes in order to sell the case, or not sell the case, but to get patient treatment or patient acceptance, we do wait just a little bit until that patient is ready for brackets, and then we'll bundle it all together. And if you have a lower contracted rate for your phase one fee, depending on if you're insurance or not, you can charge for that appliance separately.
Got it. Got it. Do you have like a range of what you think like the going rate might be for your kind of phase one with brackets, or like phase two versus comprehensive? Do you charge the same for Invisalign versus traditional braces? I know there's lots of different ways to do it. If you're comfortable, we'd love to hear what you think the going fees are. You know, I know Phoenix might be different than say New York City, but you know.
Yeah. So there's a lot that goes into your fees. Just like when you set your UCR, you typically just don't randomly come up with a number to set your UCR. But I'm more than happy to go over, what we see here. Again, we're an ortho office, so the fees for maybe a GP or somebody may be a little bit less or a little bit different than your orthodontist. We don't do a whole lot of habit appliance on its own here. So for phase one, we're usually around $2,500 to $3,000, depending on the length of treatment. Our phase ones tend to be very efficient. They tend to be 6 to 8 months. They never cross that threshold. And then for comprehensive fees, you're looking between $5,000 and $6,000 usually.
Sounds pretty reasonable. Do you charge the same for Invis cases as you do for traditional brackets and wires?
We do. So if you are using insurance, you cannot upcharge Invisalign. So that would be the same fee. We charge the same for bracket wire and clear aligners.
Great.
We don't necessarily.
That's what I always tell people to do.
Yeah, we don't use Invisalign, but we do clear aligners, and it's the same charge. Got it.
Yeah, clear aligners, and it's just a brand name. So we had one question. Someone wanted to know if you could clarify what you consider phase one. I know you're completely capable of answering this question, so I'm gonna let you go ahead and answer it.
Yeah. So for phase one, we consider the top 4 brackets. So Dr. Popat says like C to C. So the top 4 brackets is any habit appliance. Sometimes there's an issue with like the bottom 4, depending on what they're trying to correct. But it's typically just the top 4 to 4 or 6 to 6 with the appliance.
Yeah. Okay. So and Callie, just to clarify, I always say phase one is getting people ready, fixing their bite. So hopefully the teeth will come in right to begin with, and possible alignment of the front teeth as needed. So for example, and a good example of a phase one patient might be somebody who needs an expander. Maybe their canines are blocked out, and maybe we have to consolidate some space in the front with some braces or phase one aligners. So that's what phase one is. Often if you grow the jaws to the right size, then the teeth kind of drop in nice to begin with. It doesn't mean you won't have phase two later, but it might just be easier, quicker, less likely to have surgery, extractions, or jaw surgery. So that's what a phase one is. Good questions. All right, perfect. Can you tell me, one of the things a lot of doctors that I work with get hung up on is the difference between limited and comprehensive treatment. Like what happens if you scan you have an adult patient, she's like 35, she has class 2 malocclusion, let's say class 2 div 2, crowding. You give her 2 options. Maybe one of them is elastics and fixing the bite and straightening teeth, and the other one is just straightening the front teeth, leaving the overjet. Tell me a little bit about how that would work in your practice and how that affects not only the insurance, but also the billing.
Yeah. So we do see that a lot from adult patients. They just want to straighten the front, front 6 or the bottom crowding. It's usually relapse. For billing purposes, if you are treating just one arch, we can consider it limited treatment. Even if they need elastics in class 2, if you're just treating a single arch, you can bill as limited. If you are treating both arches, it is comprehensive, even if it is just a 6-month aligner case.
Oh, okay. So that's something different than I've been telling people. So that's good to hear it from you. So what if we just straighten the front teeth, but we leave the back teeth crooked and don't fix the bite? Is it still considered comprehensive?
It is for the purposes of for most insurances, because you are treating both arches. Usually, if we are not achieving optimal results in our office, we do have them sign off on understanding that this is not the optimal treatment plan, and this is what the patient has dictated, because it is your license on the line at the end of the day. If you have built comprehensive treatment and left them in an anterior open bite, or whatever it is that you've done, and they go back to the board or insurance or whoever they were to go back to and say, well, Dr. Wilson put me in Invisalign for 6 months and my teeth.
Bingo. And I have some copies of documents like that in my store on my website if people want to see them. So yes, that is something I do preach. So we definitely are in sync with that. 100%. You do not want, and I've had it happen where I mean, honestly, truly myself, where I've treated a patient, we had that conversation, we're all good. I didn't grab their signature on it. I just documented the conversation. We got to the end and they're like, well, you didn't fix my bite. I'm like, oh yeah, remember we talked about it on September 3rd, blah, 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 it's right here. No, I don't remember that. So, if you didn't chart it, it didn't happen. And then if you charge comprehensive, you actually got to go back and fix the bite. If you didn't, I mean, that's the way I see it, because otherwise they could complain. So you don't want that. So better to just document. And it seems like you and I are like in sync with that. Awesome. Perfect. Okay. So tell me a little bit about how it works with insurance, or even just in general. Let's say you start a patient in your office and they got to move to Colorado. Like, how would that work?
Yeah, we see that quite a bit, unfortunately, especially with everything that has gone on in the economy in the past year. We've seen a lot of job changes and people had to move, unfortunately. When patients do move, we typically prorate their treatment. There's a formula that the AAO has, the American Association of Orthodontics. I would have to look back on it to get the exact formula, but that's the one that we use in this office, and it typically says 30 to 35% of your fee is incurred at banding, and our financial contract also states this. So immediately 30 to 35% of that fee is incurred, and then we prorate it by the amount of months for treatment that the patient has come to our office, and then we include retention in that. And then once we calculate that, we'll show that to them, and then can transfer the records wherever it is that they need to go. If there is insurance involved, and you hypothetically, you owe that patient a refund, if you're refunding that insurance portion, you can't refund it back to the patient because that is insurance money. So you would either need to refund it back to the insurance company or send it directly to the office.
That's exactly what I've always done. So I agree with that 30 to 35% and then dividing the rest. Okay, so I'm going to put a spin on that question because I had someone ask me this the other day. Okay, 2-year treatment, braces. We're at 2 years. They want to move, but we're not done. It's iatrogenic. So it's not that patient wasn't compliant. It's just one of those things that took longer than expected, COVID, blah, whatever. We're maybe only 2/3 done, but we finished the full 2 years. How does that look then?
Yeah, so that would go back to, we like to see whether it was patient compliance or was it the doctor that we had that issue with. At our office, we kind of even if it's an 18-month case, we usually say 18 to 20 months to give us a little bit of leeway, because we be the hero in the situation, right? You don't want to overpromise, get them done in 18 months, and then at 19 months, they're upset.
Yes.
Whereas at 20 months, they're going to be happy if you told them 24. So it usually goes back to what the actual problem is. In our office, I rarely see treatment go over because we have that lenient buffer due to incorrect treatment planning.
Yeah.
It's usually always the same. They don't wear their rubber bands. They have a million broken pockets. It's usually always something else. In the case that I were in your position, I would probably give them a little bit of a refund if it was truly a doctor error. I would give them a refund because another office will charge, not a full refund, but prorate their refund by maybe 2/3 because another office will charge them, obviously, to continue treatment.
Yeah, for sure. And goodness, now this spins out into like so many different questions. I can say that, but tell me a little bit about the flip scenario. You have a patient transferring in, perhaps from another country or from another doctor. How does that process work? And do you often debond, or does doctor just look at the brackets and then decide, match the prescriptions? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we actually see that in our office. We recently had a patient come from Saudi Arabia, so the notes were kind of difficult to read, but we do accept transfers at this office. Dr. Popat is well-versed in many different types of brackets since he is an orthodontist. So provided that they're using a bracket that we have in our office, we will absolutely accept them into the office. I mean, we do take initial records, they sign all of our paperwork, and then we would give them a fee just like we give somebody else, if it's a bracket system that Dr. Popat is comfortable working with. If not, unfortunately, if it's like self-ligating or something that we don't do here, then we don't do them. We would just refer them to a friend or an orthodontic partner that we know that does. Use that
okay, so you try to match them up. What if the bracketing is super junk, like it's all like wonky and stuff? Do you sometimes like debond and rebond?
Yeah, so doctor, he'll look at the progress, see where we're at. If it's just not good, we do take everything off, and then we usually give them a week or two just to let the teeth like rehydrate.
Braces vacation.
Get back to some kind of good health. And usually in those non-compliant cases, we will ask for like a cavity clearance or something from a GP, because those non-compliant patients are usually the ones that don't go to the dentist or anything like that. So we'll give them that extra step to go to a GP, and then you come back with your cavity clearance, and then we'll put the braces on. Because we don't want to be in a situation where we then you're likely to be putting them on, and they have, all this bombed out decay. And then they go to another dentist that you work with, and they're like, how did Dr. Popat put braces on this person?
Yeah, exactly. I love the way you guys are doing things. I love the cavity clearance, and I do have also a template of that in my store too. I love cavity clearances, but how great that you also have a GP pedo practice in your office. So if someone doesn't have a dentist, that's a great way to kind of feed your practice. So that's fantastic. I love that idea. What kind of brackets does doctor use? Does he use 022 or 018 slot, and what prescription?
That I'm not sure of. I know he uses a
Sorry, I should have prepped you with that one first. That just kind of came out of left field with the chat question.
That's okay. I don't do a whole lot of clinical, so I know he uses a traditional rock bracket. I don't know anything.
He uses a mini twin. I've seen his brackets, but I can't remember if they were 018. I think he uses 022 slit, 022 Roth, but because I know I've seen them.
As well.
But I told you something like that. Anyways, it's pretty standard steps. So very cool. And Doc does go ahead.
I said he uses a pretty standard. We're very much bread and butter orthodontic, so a pretty standard type of practice.
Okay, I have a question that came up from Dr. Lepidish. I can't say his name today, but he wants to know, let's say you did a phase one, the phase one was $2,500, and you need to do a phase two. How much would you charge for the phase two? And is your phase two fee less than your comprehensive fee?
So ours is not. Our phase two and our comprehensive fees are the same. We like to think that we have built rapport. Our patients are coming back to us for that reason. So typically our phase two and our comprehensive fees are the same. We typically don't offer any sibling discount or any phase one discount either, because they like us, so they're coming back to us. If they want to shop it, then let them shop it. So be it. But we aren't
nothing wrong with that.
We aren't one to discount our services. Again, we are insurance heavy practice. So typically, I feel our fees are within reason anyhow. Versus like a so.
Yeah, I was gonna say your fees are actually quite reasonable for an orthodontist office. So I don't know you'd want to go that much lower. So, but one fun fact, you guys, about their office is they really do a lot of in-house lab work. They do their own aligner printing. manufacturing. They have their own lab tech that makes hollies. I think that is really, really cool. A great way to save money, definitely. And if you have questions about lab, Dr. Popat actually does training, and he can teach you how to do all these things in your own in-house lab. So very cool. It's on my website if you have any questions. All right. So this is a hot question. Okay, I get this a lot. Doc, I need to get started because I'm losing my insurance at the end of the month. Can you fudge the date and backdate it? How does that work? Or is that insurance fraud?
Yeah, you cannot do that. You can only bill for the day that you put something in their mouth. So the day that you place attachments, the day that you deliver an RPE, the day that you bond. Even if you're taking records that day, that is not their banding date. Their banding date is the date that they have something in their mouth, like besides separators. So you would have to bill for that date that you put something in their mouth.
Yeah, okay, that's the way I always believe it too. Yeah, you don't fudge. And then as far as my experience is, like, sometimes if their insurance is going to term, you're not going to get all your money from the insurance. You know, you might get a small chunk, but usually it comes in drips and drops over a year and a half. So if this insurance terms in a few weeks, you might only get a small portion, and then the patient's responsible for the rest. So how do you handle that in your practice?
Yeah, so when we're verifying insurance, we always verify what amount, the payment schedule for the insurance. So a lot of times it'll be 25%, 50% at banding, 100%, whatever it may be. And then that verification goes into like the treatment plan presentation. So if they say that I'm losing my insurance at the end of this month, we know that the maximum we're going to collect is 25%. So it'd be 25% of that hypothetically $2,000 benefit. So you're looking at a $500 insurance benefit from that. And then if we over collect, that would be great. That will go as a credit on the patient's account, but we only assume what we know we're going to get.
Super smart. Okay, I love that idea. All right, we had a ton of questions just came in, so I'm going to start hitting them. From Callie, when billing insurance for Invisalign treatment, when would be the optimal date to complete and send the D8090? Would it be at the ClinCheck acceptance or the attachment date? I think we just answered that, but I'll let you repeat it.
So you will bill the 8090 the day that you put attachments on and deliver the tray.
Yep. So that's what I always say. The day that something gets glued, cemented, stuck on the teeth, and sent home with them, not the day you take records or approve the ClinCheck. Exactly. So that's the benefit of hustling and trying to get that ClinCheck approved. And if people have questions about that, I do that all day long. So feel free to run your ClinChecks by me. But good question. All right, another question. In your lab, or what are you using for retention? Are you using mostly Hollies or Essex kind retainers? What is doctor's preference?
Yeah, so we do all of our lab work here. So lab cost is not necessarily an issue for us. We typically do Hollies for phase 1 and clear for phase 2 comprehensive and adult.
Awesome. That sounds good.
If they wanted a fixed bonded retainer, doctor does do that. It's not his preference, but some patients are persistent on it. So he does do it. It's just not. Does
he charge more for that or no?
He does charge more for that, yeah, because they tend to just keep coming back.
It's an upgrade. So that's exactly what I tell people to do. I say it's an upgrade fee if you want one, because once you put one of those on, you bond it, you married the patient. So they're going to break. Do you guys have like a warranty on your retainers, or how does that work?
We do not. I guess you could say for the first like 30 days, if anything were to happen, we're happy to replace it at no charge. After that, we do charge it.
Do you guys have that in writing? I know I'm asking all kind of crazy questions, but do you have that in writing? Do the patients know that, or you just verbally say it, or how do you enforce it?
When they get the fixed lingual, we do give them a paper to sign that lets them know what the cost is, and then the 30 days, and then after that it's going to be this amount for reattachment, because they like 10 years later they can come back and say, well, Dr. Popat did my fixed lingual retainer and now it's not working.
Exactly. Just out of curiosity, and it's totally fine, you can say no to this. And by the way, I didn't prep you on this question, but someone just messaged me and asked, Do you have copies of any of these documents that you're referencing? And is it part of your consulting practice that you can, people can pay for copies, like templates? It's okay if it's no.
Yeah, so I do have copies. Typically, when I do my consulting calls for insurance or whatever it is, insurance verification, I do provide some forms for the office to use. So I'm more than happy to provide some of my consent forms, retainer consent with consulting.
Wow, awesome. Okay, so you guys want to learn more about that, you can go to my website. You'll see Bansi Popat's courses, and if you register for a course for her, she will share her copies. So that's pretty awesome. I'd love to see them. All right. Oh, so many questions. Okay. How does your billing go for Invisalign? Do you charge separately for records?
So we don't charge separately for records. It's a comprehensive fee. Typically, if you call insurance companies, they will say that codes, what is it, D0330 for the panel, the stuff, intraoral photos, study models, all of those go to your ortho maximum. Most times, there are some insurance companies that will, pay you for the study models or something like that, but we don't charge an additional fee for records.
Yeah, that's how I've always done. Initial final records are included. You can say that you did them and post them to the insurance, and you can always, verify ahead of time and find out, but usually there's no charge on records. And are your initial consults free when the people come in to get an ortho consult with doc, or do you guys charge for it?
Yeah, so the consultations are free. We have panel staff here, so we don't need to send out for records. I know some offices do not, so they will send out for the initial records to do a proper consultation. But there is no charge for the consultation for orthodontics. That's
super smart. So, and if someone needed a pano at consultation, you just take it and you don't charge, right?
That's correct. We take it and we don't charge. I found that people sometimes will then try to take that panel to like the oral surgeon or something like that. So when they come in, they do understand, they do sign that this panel is for this office only, and there is a charge if they would like it released. And that's only because they haven't. If we had charged insurance for it, I have no issue releasing the panel. But sometimes I find that people just want to come in for that.
Yes, that's exactly what I always did. Can I ask you like what your charge is to release the panel in that circumstance?
Yeah, so we just charge $50 for their records release, which is probably less than a panel anyway.
Yeah, that's really reasonable. I like that. My next question for you, since you mentioned SEFs, is I know this is a bit of a hot button subject, but do you guys take SEFs on every single patient that comes in regardless? Or if it's an adult patient that's class 1, no malocclusion, simple, tiny little case, not going to change AP or bite or anything, do you not take it?
So we only take SEFs after the treatment, after the patient has accepted treatment. So a SEF is always taken on every single patient, regardless of if it's phase 1, class 1, class 2, class 3. It's just part of our initial record. So initial and final SEF.
Pretty standard for orthodontists. A lot of general dentists don't do that. I don't think it really has ever caused any problems as far as I know, since Invisalign doesn't use it or anything like that. But a lot of general dentists are often really concerned about the whole SEF thing. So, but yeah, I mean, nothing wrong with taking it, definitely. Okay, next question. Well, Kelly, I'm not sure if she knows the answer to this, but I will ask her. Do you happen to know clinically why doctor prefers a Holly retainer instead of clear retainers? And I think she said she uses Holly for phase 1, because clear retainers you can't really use in phase 1 unless it's a thorough clear retainer, because it's going to block the eruption of other teeth. But I didn't know if you knew doctor's philosophy on Holly versus clear retainers.
Yep, what doctor said is absolutely correct. For phase 1, it doesn't really work, and phase 1s tend to lose retainers a lot, so giving them a clear retainer is not ideal by any means. He uses clear retention because most of our patients prefer it. I don't think that there's necessarily a clinical reason as to why he chooses one over the other, but I'm not a doctor, so I don't want to say that. But typically he does present both options. We see much more clear. For phase 1, we don't even give the option. It's always a hold.
Right. That makes sense. how do you supplement for plans that have a lower of allowable for ortho? So let's say you're in network, certain type of insurance, it's super low for ortho. Do you supplement, and how does that work? How can we make more money?
So there's no real way to make more money unless you find cavities or something like that. Unless the treatment were to go well beyond the typical 28 to 30 months. I think most insurances allow for 28 to 30 months with the standard fee. It is by insurance specific, so you'd have to find out what insurance it is. Then you may be allowed to charge a higher a fee per month for those extended treatment times. But there's no real way to supplement a lower ortho fee outside of dropping network status.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I mean, I guess the main thing is you have to drop your insurance if it's the fees are so low. So that would be your option. I know that's
or negotiate.
Renegotiate. Is that something, by the way, that you can help with? Do you have tips on renegotiating insurance?
I just recently renegotiated all of my contracts this year because we are like 3 to 5 years in. So the thing with renegotiating is there's a lot of this is a whole nother thing, but there's a lot of umbrella plans. So sometimes the umbrellas have higher coverage than just like single payer if you were to go with say Zealous or something like that versus just straight Cigna. But that does take some time to do. But usually you are able to renegotiate fees outside of like Delta, MetLife, and United Concordia. I think those ones don't move at all. But they base it on your volume and kind of how many cases you start and that kind of stuff. So there is room to move because I find that my ortho practice is bigger than our peds practice. So my ortho practice dictates higher fees than my peds practice does. So I get 2 fee schedules. The same, they're 2 tax IDs, but I'll get 2 fee schedules within the same building.
That is super smart. So I think that's probably the answer right there. Okay. If you have I think we kind of covered this, but I'll ask you just in case. If you have a braces patient who wants to, okay, I got it. Patients in braces, they decide they don't like braces anymore. They want to upgrade to Invisalign. What do you charge?
Yeah, so we're actually, this has been, I think it's a new thing in the ortho community. I don't know. My husband was telling me that we see a lot of times people will go from bracket wire to Invisalign. We don't do that at this office. However, if it's something that was already treatment planned, it would already be in the treatment fee. If the patient decided that, hey, I want to go into Invisalign now, depending on my insurance contract, I would probably charge a fee if I was able to, if they just decided that they now want clear aligners, because that was probably not the conversation that was had when we initially made the treatment plan. But that will also go back to your contract with insurance, because they're probably paying on.
Okay, so you'd have to call the insurance to see if you could charge more, because maybe you can and maybe you can't.
Yeah, usually not, but you can.
Got it.
Obviously, but it would put you in the position of, do you want to incur that lab fee after you've already put bracket and wire on for the amount?
Right. That makes sense. Okay, I got one more question, and I think that's all we have today, unless someone else pitches us some questions, and maybe you have something else you want to mention. But we may have already covered this, but I'll just repeat it just in case. Since you charge at your attachment or Invisalign delivery appointment, I know you're not doing Invisalign, but let's say aligner delivery or appliance delivery, what happens if you send out for records and send the case to Invisalign and patient backs out?
So we collect a down payment at the time that they decide they want to do Invisalign. That doesn't mean that we're charging insurance on that yet. Invisalign has a very high lab fee, so we need to know that the patient has committed. So what you decide to charge at your office, that's totally up to you, but we collect 50% of lab fee straight up. If it is
50% of lab fee? So Invisalign would be, well, you guys are, but aligners, okay. Well, if you're doing in-house aligners, so how do you explain the lab fee then?
So there is no lab fee for clear aligners because we do them in-house, so that's financed the same way that we do brackets. So usually around $500 or up. And that
Okay,
fee is
got it.
collected when we book a bonding appointment.
Got it. But then, okay, so let's say you were doing Invisalign, they put $500 down, they've approved the case, they've signed the contract, and then they say, nah, I don't want it after all. But now you've already incurred, hypothetically speaking, that $1,900 lab fee. They're still on the hook. The patient still has to pay for that 33%, right, that you had in your contract?
Yeah, because they've signed the contract at that point. Before we send the case to Invisalign, they have a signed contract at our office that 35% or whatever amount it is incurred right at banding. And hypothetically, if it's a $6,000 case, that would be your entire lab fee.
Yeah, okay, that's exactly what I always did. So yeah, patient signs contract before you even approve the clin check. They know that that first appointment, whether they show up or not, is going to be 33% of the case, which would cover your whole lab fee. So basically now the patient owes you $1,400, even if they didn't want to start. That's how it is. You just have to go to collections, I guess, unfortunately.
It can be difficult to collect that money, but if they do a payment plan with us, we usually have the lab fee draft before we deliver the aligners, so that we've at least collected close to that amount. So hypothetically, if they were to sign a contract with me and say it's February, I had to start on February 1st, their first payment will come out on February the 15th. I'll deliver their aligners in March. So I'll at least get the down payment and the first payment in, just because it's such a large lab fee.
Got it. Okay. And then Dr. Rayani, if you want to connect with, I was going to say Dr. Popat, but Mrs. Popat offline, I have her website, how to schedule with her, on my website, which I know you know my website. So if you just go there, it's under classes and it just says schedule a meeting with Mrs. Popat. And then if she said if you schedule a consult with her, then she can give you the additional forms. So so tell us a little bit about your courses, what type of courses you're offering.
Yeah, so we run with Open Dental. So Open Dental is a software that I know a lot of our newer offices use. There's a lot of capability. So we do training with Open Dental. We're multi-specialty here. So we do ortho, pedo, perio, oral surgery. We have all the specialists in-house, and we all run with one clinic in Open Dental. So we do Open Dental training for ortho. It's a little bit different than for GP or PEDS. Also do insurance and billing and questions. And then I also do consulting for like brand, website. I don't build websites, but brand, websites, anything marketing you would need for your dental office. So like brand management, logo, that kind of thing. And as well as training for front office, how to get your collections higher, how to present treatment plans, case acceptance, that kind of thing.
Awesome. Yeah. And you guys, my own husband has a practice and he actually consults with Bansi as well. So we hire her as well. So I put my money where my mouth is. So since you mentioned this, and this will probably be our last question, let's talk a little bit about social media. I know you guys you're like a whiz at it. Tell me about how social media is used in your practice, how it grows your practice. What percentage of your overall marketing budget is it? What other kinds of marketing do you do, real briefly? That would be great.
Yeah, so we actually don't do a whole lot of marketing at this office. I don't do Google AdWords right now. I feel that my money is much better spent directly targeting my patients. So we do, if you have an ortho start, you get $100 from us, or I think it's AirPods right now. So whatever the hot thing is, and we feel that money is definitely better spent than Google Ads, but it kind of depends on your demographic, where you're at. We're 5 years in, so we have a good patient population that now refers. When we were 1 year in, that was a different story. So each practice is a little bit different as to how I think marketing should work. As far as social media, we handle all of our own pages. Everything is organic. When we're here, we're taking pictures of bonds, little kids that have no cavities, that kind of thing. So everything is organic, and then we go in and we post. It's not the most scheduled posting. It's just kind of when we get a chance. So that is something we're trying to get better at. But we find that a lot of our organic ground roots marketing is much better than, you know, spending it on Facebook ads and Google. But that's just, it's, you know, it's the kind of patients that we attract. It's the demographic that we're in. They like us, and we've, you know, we complete their treatment to 100%. They're all happy, and then they tell their friends, and that's kind of how we've grown, and that's how we're growing our pediatric practice as well. So it's kind of funny to see that our orthodontic practice is, you know, having more patients in pediatrics. It's usually the vice versa, but since we're older, we are feeding that pipeline that way.
Super smart. And then what is your Instagram handle for your orthodontics? Is your orthodontics and pediatric practice two different businesses, two different handles?
Yeah, they're separate. So you'll see majority of our posts on Popat Orthodontic. So Facebook or Instagram, you can find us at Popat Orthodontic, and then our pediatric practice is Madison Pediatric Dentistry.
Got it. Super smart. All right. Well, thank you so much. I don't see any other questions. So thank you so much, Mrs. Bansi Popat, for lecturing for us today.